Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shining Light Video Podcast Show. Just give me 1 second. I just have to make my Facebook go live, and here we are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shining Light Video Podcast Show, where I shine a light on my guest and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm Michael Esposito, the host of the show and an insurance agent specializing in business and personal insurance. I'll introduce my guest in a few moments, but first, I would like to just acknowledge what's happening in our society today. My show is a platform to promote the amazing, positive people in our communities, and it will continue to do so, to shine a light on the positive people and the actions they're taking to help each other. Therefore, I would like to highlight several communities that are taking positive actions in light of what's happening today. From my knowledge, Middletown, New Paltz, and Poughkeepsie all had peaceful, nonviolent protests. Organizers met with county, city, and town officials in order to make this possible, and they accomplished their missions. This show will continue to shine a light on the positivity and the amazing people in all of our communities, no matter their race, gender, religion, or politics, or anything else that's perceived to separate us. I would like to acknowledge Forgotten Children of Haiti's fundraiser and that we reached our goal of $5,000 thanks to all of our generous supporters and donors. So I want to thank you all for helping us accomplish that goal of reaching $5,000 and being able to send that money off to Haiti to be able, for the front line workers to be able to buy N95 masks for themselves. This show has also been sponsored by the Mindful Living Coaching Program. In this program, Matt Alfonso will help you gain clarity, live present, and improve your self-love. This program is designed to help you shift your mindset and make lasting changes. Please message at MattAlfonso1 on Instagram and use the promo code Shining Light Podcast to receive a special discount. That's Matt Alfonso and the number 1. This show has also been sponsored by HV Gold Rewards, the largest Facebook business networking group in the Hudson Valley. Visit hvgoldrewards.com to buy your $10 discount card. Enter promo code FCH, and HV Gold Rewards will donate $8 to Forgotten Children of Haiti's fundraiser. I'd like to say hi to some of the people in the chat here. I see my cousin Mike is on. Welcome, Mike. Nice to see you on here. And Crazy Times Creative, hello, how are you? HV Drones is on. How are we doing over there? And I see my guest is ready to come on, so I'm going to bring him on. I actually hit the live button a little early today by accident, but I figured why not just start it up when it comes on. So here we are a little bit early, which is perfect because I see my guest is here and we're going to get rolling. So let me bring him in. Just give me a second, everybody, to do that. And he just fun conversation today for sure. So he's coming in right this second. There you are. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. All right, Joe. Well, we're going to have a fun conversation today. I think I put it in the headline, medical marijuana. Need I say more? But we're going to be talking about the engineering side of it all and some of the benefits. But first, let me give you a proper introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shining Light Video Podcast Show, where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm Michael Esposito, the host of the show and an insurance agent specializing in business and personal insurance. Cannabis is the single most versatile herbal remedy and the most useful plant on earth. No other plant contains a wide range of medically active herbal constituents. That's from Dr. Ethan Russon. Do you know somebody who medical marijuana has helped? Let us know in the comments. My guest today is an engineer who invented a machine to help facilitate the processing of medical marijuana. He's Joe DeMaio of Pharmacan, and today he'll share how his engineering background is getting medical marijuana into the hands, to the people who really need it most. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, you're welcome. So, Joe, you're an inventor. You're like, this was like my childhood dream. I played with Legos and all those other cool things, and I always thought I was like, I'm going to be an inventor, but you really don't realize what an inventor is until you become an adult and start seeing what inventing is, and there's all sorts of different inventions. But you invented a machine that helped facilitate the processing of marijuana. My understanding from your story is that that's not exactly what you had intended for this machine. Could you share with us the story as to how you got into building this machine, what its original purpose was for, and then how Pharmacan ended up approaching you to be able to come and share this with them?
Sure. So, just a slight clarification. I knew what it was intended for, but I didn't understand the problem that I was solving. And so here's we'll back up a little bit, and I'll tell you how I got into it. So I was running my own business. I had two small businesses. I had a tea company where I had a hot fill line, and we were making botanical teas. And at the same time, I had another company called Deco Solutions, and we were making and building equipment on a small scale for just people over the years that would say, hey, Joe, can you build this? Can you do that? Because I was always involved one way or another in some type of packaging or machinery building or troubleshooting or helping local person with a trial or tribulation on their equipment line or something like that. It's just the networking over the year. It wasn't really a big business. It was kind of a side business. And so there I was in Clintondale, New York, on Maynard Farms. My brother, Fred DeMaio, and his wife, Diane, had bought back Diane's family farm, which was an interesting journey and a whole nother story of wonderful interest. But I was residing within that building with my brother, and that's where the line was, and I was building equipment and just networking. And I used to work at a company called Sonotech in Milton, New York, where they, another interesting company, right? They atomize liquids with sound waves. So it is as cool as it sounds. And it was very fun to work there and learned a lot. And from being there, you know, I met a lot of people, of course, in the technical field. And then, so while I was at, you know, at my Deco business, plugging along, I was approached by someone that said, hey, Joe, can you, we're building this machine for this company, Pharmacanis at the time, and now it's Pharmacan, slight change, but we have a problem with the liquid delivery system on it. It's difficult, and we actually approached Sonotech and a few other companies, and some of the people basically said, you know, you should go talk to Joe DeMaio about this, and so can you do it? I say yes to everything. Sometimes that's a problem, but I say yes to everything. And
that's why you're on this show.
That's right. Yes. So that's right. So I got into it, and you know, in the beginning, I just thought it was a liquid delivery system for a difficult to fill product. It's basically really small doses of a distillate that you, now I know it to be the vape pens. It's the distillate that goes inside of vape pens. And for Pharmacanis, it was so that patients could, you know, atomize basically, and it's basically a high-tech e-cigarette, right? And so that they can get their medicine in that format. The problem is that the problem that they were having is that Pharmacanis at the time, and still does, makes a high-quality product, and so there's no fillers, there's no excipients if you're from pharmaceuticals, or just fillers, oils, all these kind of bad things that you hear about on the news. They don't use any of that, and so their distillate is pure and very thick. You know, at room temperature, it's basically taffy a little bit warmed, so it's very, very thick. So we have to fill that at relatively high speed at a 0.3 milliliter, which is very tiny, in a space of about 2 millimeters, and into these cartridges. So without getting too much into it, because I like to go down those technical paths, but I'll spare you that. We started to develop this. And so I started looking at the machine that this liquid filling, or the liquid delivery system, had to be integrated into. In doing that, they got to know me from Pharmacan, and Dave Scheibel in particular was like, well, why don't you just design the whole machine? We see these other projects you're doing that are pretty cool. Why don't you just design a whole machine? So I did. Now, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just problem solving a liquid delivery for a little tiny thing that had a little cap, and these little parts went together, and my engineering brain was like, let me problem solve. Here's all the questions we need. And I just got right into the project. I never took a step back and thought, you know, is anybody else doing this? Has this been done before? What are the problems? And so, and that project was a long timeline. As we got into it, we started asking questions, and I started working with Dave, and then I met Chris DiOrio, who's a director of R&D at Pharmacan, and I started meeting more and more people. Those are my two primary contacts, and I started realizing that, wow, the way that they do it in the cannabis industry is like there's people on tables just filling things with syringes, trying to heat things with heat lamps and heat guns, and it's chaos. And there's no kind of controlled, continuous process. There's no analytics. It's just kind of willy-nilly, for better, you know, lack of a better descriptive. So once I got into that and I started to really understand it, became more exciting to me. And about that time of me realizing that, we installed the machine, and, you know, of course, when you install a new machine, you have to go through a lot of troubleshooting and fix things that you thought you knew were going to work. And then we got it running. Everything was smooth. It was pretty amazing. And Chris and Dave and the rest of the team at Pharmacan was like, well, why don't you come work for us? And so I thought, well, okay. It's an interesting.
They made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
Pretty much, yeah. It's an interesting industry, so I researched it and I started learning about it. I mean, of course, I was born in 1970. I know what cannabis is. I just didn't understand it from the medical perspective as deeply as Pharmacan was involved in it. And I started to educate myself and thought, man, they're doing some amazing stuff. And right. I thought, man, there's a lot of good work here to do. And the more I dug into it, the more I peeled the layers off, and the more I met more people there, because by the time the machine was installed, I had already had about a year and a half relationship with Pharmacan through talks and design specs, and then installation, troubleshooting, and then hey, come work for us. So it was well over a year of me. I already knew the culture in the workplace of Pharmacan, and now I'm starting to understand really what they do as a company. And so I really couldn't say no.
Yeah, I want to get into that too, like the medical side of everything, because you and I spoke about that, and really some of the benefits to cannabis and what it can do. And that's also why I chose the quote for you today of this doctor who put that out there, because of the conversation that you and I have had. I just want to introduce everybody. This is the Shining Light Video Podcast show, where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, an engineer at Pharmacan, who developed a process to be able to take pretty much a taffy-like solution, which is where the cannabis is stored, and be able to get it into almost a liquid form, to be able to get it into these pens or these ways of vaping it, so that people who are sick, who suffer from maybe cancer or other illnesses, are able to access the cannabis, the medical marijuana. And I want to speak with you, Joe, a little bit about the medical side of this. And really, this is very opinion-based in terms of our conversation, really. We don't have to get into the statistics or the numbers of anything. But based off of your knowledge, when you entered the industry, as you were alluding to, you started learning a lot about the medical benefits of cannabis, of medical marijuana. Could you share with us some insight in the industry as to what those are? I mean, on the surface, we all understand that it could be a really great pain reliever. We all understand that it helps cancer patients, but I'm sure you have a little bit more knowledge on this. Could you share that with us, please?
Well, to be honest, I don't have much more knowledge on it than vague statements.
And that's a wrap.
However, no. But because I am, I always say I'm just an engineer. I focus on, mechanical resolve and process best practices, and I really have a huge plate just focusing on continual process within Pharmacan. However, because Pharmacan makes a high grade product and tries to do that in every type of product that they make, the patients that receive this, they have a great experience, not just from the time they step into the dispensary, but also from experiencing the products that we make. So I can't really I'm not going to talk about things I don't know about, which is like, what are the, bioavailability and the effects of cannabis. I don't want to talk about that, because what I think I know is probably not as fabulous as it should be. So right. I can say that it is in my belief, and from what I've read, very effective in things like what you said, in pain relief, in managing nausea, and managing symptoms of other ailments. And I just believe that because I've seen it, and from what little bit I've been exposed to. So we all know too, let's expand a little bit on that as far as medical marijuana. There's the adult use that's more and more states are coming online, and we also we're fully integrated. So of course we're not going to leave that revenue on the table, right? We do that in states where we are already adult use. So not to get off on a tangent, but that is something that we also do. We keep saying medical marijuana, and we are firmly grounded in that and founded in that, but we also are involved in adult use. So just, want to throw that out there for people that are like, you do this in Illinois, and when New York comes online, we will as well. And we are building in new states as well. So, there's that statement. So got off on a tangent a little bit, not really talking about the benefits so much, but here's my tie-in with that. When I realized with this one example, this very small solution that I made to help the patients basically, experience the medication without the fillers or excipients or these other things that are not necessarily good, but they're used to thin the product or to make it vaporize a little easier, things like that. I realized that I like to focus on the problem-solving, best practices, the packaging, equipment, automation, if you will. And if I could tie that in and couple that with that skill set, being able to translate into helping people and really starting to demystify and really qualify cannabis in the real world, then that's great. And that was my deciding factor, which goes back to earlier when we were talking about transition. That was my trigger point. I was learning about Pharmacan. I was making the transition, connecting the dots, and I realized I can take my knowledge and apply it into the cannabis industry and really, even if it's a small piece, or I feel it is, it's beneficial, and it helps get the product out to people properly, safely, in a controlled manner. And that is applicable in both medical marijuana and adult use, which is something else I want to tie back into what I said. You, in my opinion, should approach both in the same control or the same in the same approach. So the way that you make it and your best practices and how you keep things safe and clean and processed and documented, that should be the same approach. So in summary, because we started as a medical marijuana company, when you translate that into adult use, it has great benefits, and that's what we're starting to do as well. So yeah, it's a wonderful journey.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying in terms of the adult use, is that you have the guidelines there in place, you have the structure in place to be able to make sure that this product that's being used for, you're calling it adult use, recreational use, however somebody wants to perceive it. But basically, the guidelines that you're putting in place for the pharmaceutical use of it, for the medical marijuana, are the same guidelines that you're bringing into that adult use to be able to provide a great product that is going to leave a good result, and also have the same guidelines, which I think is very important, especially with the conversation that we're having here, is that there of course is some people have different feelings about it and about the substance in general. I know when I was looking up quotes, I was actually fascinated with some of the people that were quoted in terms of using it. And I'll share with you one of those quotes was from Thomas Jefferson, one of our presidents, who in his quote said, "I always enjoyed smoking hemp on my back porch." I'm summarizing the quote because I don't have it memorized. Yeah. But when I read the quote and I was like, Thomas Jefferson, so there's obviously some stigma, a negative stigma that got tied to it. And I'm glad that what I noticed when I went to Pharmacan's website, and you and I spoke about this a little bit, is that Pharmacan seems to be breaking away from that stigma. And really, again, going back to what you're saying about bringing it into adult use, is that by the way that Pharmacan is doing it on the pharmaceutical side, they're trying to make sure that when it goes into the adult use side, that stigma is pretty much gone, and that we really do understand the benefits of medical marijuana and of marijuana in general. So
yes.
Yeah, to your point
that's a big mouthful, but that's correct. That is correct. There's a lot of work to be done in that. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm going to give you, as you were talking about that, we're saying a lot right now, and people are processing it, and it is a lot to process, and there are a lot of opinions, and there are a lot of opinions that people think are facts, and there's a lot of facts to sift through that need to be validated within the cannabis industry. And so I'll give you an example. So this is one pretty clean example. In the comparison between medical cannabis and adult use, we have, because if we're making a product in the medical world and the patient takes a dose, you know, there's a lot of thought and understanding of, are they getting that medicine in that dose? If they take a puff, if they take a tincture, if they take a tablet, how many milligrams of THC and CBD or whatever else you want is in there? What are they getting exactly? What are the claims, right? So that's a big point, not just in medical, but when you go to recreational or adult use, you could have inaccurate dosings of THC, which is also a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So when we translate from one to the other, that's where the benefits come out, because when you, no matter what product you're getting, you know what you're getting, and it's more validated, not just produced with you know, opinions or not necessarily best practices that are proven, but you know, things that people, I don't want to say myths or urban legends, but sometimes it is. So it's good to be part of a team that understands that approach and goes about it what I believe is the right way.
Yeah, I mean, we realized that during the, I guess, call it the prohibition of marijuana at the time, there was a lot of myths that were brought up or made up in order to get people to not use it. So we definitely understand why those are still lingering in our society, in our world today. Yeah. This is the Shining Light video podcast show where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, an engineer over at Pharmacan. Pharmacan is a parent company to other subsidiaries that produce medical marijuana, but they also produce, in states where it's legal, adult use marijuana. And Joe is the inventor to a machine that helps process this taffy-like substance into a liquid form to be able to get into these medical marijuana pens where patients are able to use it and access it. Joe, I just have to go right back to the machine for 1 second here, because something that you and I spoke about, and you use this term, and I feel like this should be a quote on your desk somewhere. It's like, I am an engineer. I fuse my engineering skills with cannabis. Could you just, before we move on into the rest of my show here, could you just hit that point for me of like fusing your engineering skills into cannabis and what that means to you?
I say a lot of things I don't remember.
Well, I just love it. You know, when you said that to me, is that when you said to me,
teasing.
I mean, I'll tell you what that meant to me. Because you did something that, and what I wanted you to hit on too is the fact that the machine that you made, like in your story of telling me about this machine, you kind of like grazed over the fact that you are the only person who's ever created this machine in the industry. The industry doesn't have it.
Well, let me clarify that. That's a big statement. Let me clarify that. There are other machines that do it seemingly, and currently there may even be some other companies that have a machine similar to this that they're not outwardly selling on the open market. But at the time that I built this machine, which by the way was 2 years ago, it was installed a year ago, and in the cannabis industry that's a lifetime. Yeah, there were. Okay, let me clarify that. So when we built the machine, it was believed that this was the first continuous process that we could regulate each step along the way. It wasn't kind of batch process, and it wasn't manual. It's done by a robot. It has controls, heat, and it has recipes that are in the computer. So it does the same exact thing every single time, and it does it efficiently. Instead of having a room full of 12 or 15 people, we do the same amount with one person. So there's that aspect of it. And at the time that we were doing that and developing that, I don't believe that there was anything quite like that on the market. Now, there are other things by bigger companies that are proposed in, for instance, the Canadian market. That is a different market than where we're at. And I'm sure that there are some machines that resemble this. You have to. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I'm absolutely positive there are people as smart or smarter than me out there that are building machines like this. But from my world and from the East Coast perspective in the United States, we were leading. And the caveat or the additional statement to that I want to say is that has evolved into version 2, 3, 4. I now have a design on a machine. We haven't built it yet, but I have a design on a machine that I pretty much know no one else is doing, and it is an industry leader in Canada as well. And some of the technologies that we've fused into it, or I have, is inspection technologies, weighing technologies, more precise dosing technologies, things that allow you to put, if you can imagine, there's all different types of cartridges that you put in these machines. And if you put one in, what does it take to change that over? What does it take to clean the machine? And how much labor and energy does it take to do that? This version 3 that I've designed is basically, you change it over by basically pushing a button and putting different pallets or holders in the machines, which I'm sure is on the top end of advancement right now, what's happening in the industry. So, I don't know. I feel we're talking about myself. I guess that's the whole point of this interview. But
he's a humble engineer. Just give him his scrubs and let him get to work in his lab. He's a humble engineer. But Joe, as a friend, I'm going to tell you, I am very proud of your accomplishment, and I think you are the inventor of the only machine in the world. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to say it.
Fair enough.
This is the Shining Light Video Podcast show where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, the inventor. I'm saying it, the inventor of the only machine. Truly, he is an engineer over at Pharmacan, where he's able to help facilitate the process of medical marijuana to be able to get it into the hands of the people that truly need it. And we spoke a little bit about the invention of that machine and how he came about being able to make that. And we also spoke about the medical marijuana industry and how it's very helpful and how it's advancing today in the world and opening up to different states and opening up to different places. Joe, I have to ask you a question I always ask, but I'd like to tailor it to the medical marijuana industry if that's possible. And the question is, I always ask, what do we see as a positive outcome from this quarantine? So how could we maybe look at this from the medical marijuana standpoint and look at it from an engineering standpoint and say, what is the positive outcome from this quarantine, from being quarantined and cooped up in our homes?
Well, first, I think it's good. I have a business thought and a personal thought. But first, from the business end, I think that it's great that the cannabis industry was considered a critical service, right? I think that they kept operating, we kept operating, and kept providing things that were needed. To me, that's a big statement. I don't really know how other people view it. I haven't really talked about that outwardly, but I think that's a great thing because it shows that it's deemed important. And that's one thing. That's, I think, really important.
Which Joe, to what we were talking about earlier, is like the breaking of the stigma of it, is understanding that it truly is for medicinal use and is important, and breaking that stigma. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, from a personal standpoint, I think COVID, for me especially, but I think for a lot of people, it induced a pause. It makes you recollect. It makes you basically pause and breathe. And when you do that, you become more aware. And being more aware, I think, we need that in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're saying it on a personal level, you're talking about being more aware on a personal level. And something that you mentioned to me before is stop and smell the flowers kind of thing. And when you're saying more aware, you're saying more aware of what? Of our environment, of our family?
Everything, because everything is connected. So once you become, when you slow down and you become more aware about what you're doing on a micro level, or how you're acting to your family members, or how they're interacting with you, and what you're accomplishing at a small level, it spills over into their building blocks. So when people do those things on a small level, it proliferates and it becomes building blocks. And I believe, this is just me, this is just the way my brain thinks. You know, I think that when you do that, it breeds awareness, because when you start at a very micro level, it breeds awareness. You can't help it, becomes infectious. And I think that, you know, there are a lot of political issues going on right now that that's needed, but that's not why I said it. I think that it's important to understand that if because of COVID, that seed was planted at a very baseline, needed, basic way, that's the seed for change, in my opinion. It's not induced from the top down, it's from the bottom up. And so if we need awareness and we need some change. So you know what, the best way to do it sometimes is to slow down and to really be aware, not just check it off the list, not just say yes, not just hit like. It's to stop and be aware. And I think that's the good thing in my world. It's the good thing about COVID.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, the reason why I ask you to elaborate on that, of course, is that we can get all of that full body of what you're talking about, because being aware is exactly that. Is, you know, when you're smelling the flowers, like you had said to me earlier, of smelling a flower, and you take that deep breath in and you breathe in that beautiful smell, you're aware of those smells, their senses are coming about. And that's really what you're speaking about. I mean, you're an engineer, you're a technical person, and you understand the importance of these little things that affect an entire process line. And that's really the way that you think. I could see that just in your answer here of being aware, is that you're talking about one little thing that affects an entire product line. And that truly is very important in our world, not just pre-COVID, during COVID, and then, of course, what's happening today in society, is understanding what those little things are and how they affect major change in the future, for sure. Thanks for sharing that with us. This is the Shining Light Video Podcast show, where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, an engineer over at Pharmacan, where they help get medical marijuana in the right hands in the people who need it the most. And Joe, before we move on into your community service and some of the things that you do there, I would just like to ask you a quick question right back to the medical marijuana industry. Is it open in New York? Is New York open to medical marijuana, or are we not a market yet? I'm ignorant to it, honestly.
Yeah, nope. It's New York is a medical market. Yep.
Okay, cool.
We
Joe,
Pharmacan actually started in. I feel like I'm plugging Pharmacan, but I'm just proud of the company I work for. The bottom line is they have an amazing facility in New York, in Hamptonburg, and it's I think I can say it's the largest, or one of the largest, capacity facilities in New York. And again, it's run like a pharmaceutical company. If you went in the building, which you're not allowed, you would see it's much like a pharmaceutical company. So it's yeah.
And do you have any insight? And please don't speak out of turn, obviously. But do you have any insight as to whether adult use will take place in New York at any time in the future?
I only have an opinion.
Okay. But as of right now, that's not on the table that you know of?
Oh, it's going to happen. Yeah, it'll happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think in the next 5, 10 years, what does it look like? From no idea.
Much quicker than that.
Oh, much quicker than that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm very ignorant to the industry.
No, yeah. I had to learn. I mean, 2 years ago, I couldn't even fathom what that question meant. But this, you have to look at it like this. If Massachusetts is adult use and New York is losing revenue, what are they going to do? Okay. I mean, again, my personal opinion, not something I've read or learned from anyone.
Right. But from a revenue standpoint, it might move a lot quicker than anything.
Yeah, it's just logical business numbers. I mean.
Right.
Yep.
Very cool. This is the Shining Light Video Podcast show, where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, engineer over at Pharmacan. He invented a process that's able to facilitate the processing of medical marijuana for a company called Pharmacan to be able to get medical marijuana into the hands of the people that need it the most. Joe, you're very active in the community. You and your wife donate wherever possible. You give blood. You do so much in your community. Could you share with us that any acts of kindness and generosity that you're witnessing today in your local community?
I think, didn't really prepare for that one, but I think that,
well, I've had conversations with people about this, and acts of kindness and generosity can be from any size. It's not necessarily, the $100 million that Michael Jordan donated recently. It can go right down to just saying hi. I had Darren Bowe on the show yesterday from DB Graphics, and we spoke about just people just being more friendly with each other, and that was really something that he cheated on.
It's funny because when you first asked me the question, I had a seed in my head, but I quickly pivoted when you asked that, and it went to a very simple thought, and I didn't know really if that's not good content, but Joe DeMaio, the bottom line is I think it's the simple thing of people actually make eye contact across the road. I know it sounds crazy, but it's those little things that those are the little things that I enjoy. And I think that people looking at each other or waving or, that type of thing, or people are going out or they're doing something that's, it goes back to what I said earlier about when people stop and pause,
right?
And they're more aware and they're more appreciative than they just, it's the small things. So if they were going for a walk before, it was, hey, I got 15 minutes before my next meeting, or I got to go down, I got dinner plans, I have to go for a walk. And you're like speed walking down and you're like, okay, I got 3/4 of a mile done. Check. What's the next thing? Check. That's the world we, especially as New Yorkers, live in. And I think when you slow it down and you're going for a walk because you're trying to keep things in balance because things are a little nutty right now, you take the 50 milliseconds to look at your neighbor and understand they're going through the same thing and wave at somebody and see if they need help. And I see a lot of that. And those are the small things I think I see that makes me feel good and hopeful.
Yeah, like I said, we spoke about it yesterday, but it can't be spoken about enough because going back to your process line and what you said with being awareness, with raising awareness or being more aware, is again, the little things. You said it already with the process line. It's just those little things, those little tweaks. And I'm sure when you were inventing this process line, it was a little tweak that all of a sudden accelerated the process. And like I said, with what you're talking about, a little eye contact, a little wave, a little smile, it goes such a long way. It can trigger so much in a person. That really goes a long way. So I'm happy that you didn't hold back on that because that really does mean sometimes even more than $100 million donation. Which look, no one's discrediting that for sure. No one's discrediting 100. Look, Michael Jordan, applauds to him for doing that. But no one's discrediting that. But we also have to appreciate, like you said, being more aware, and then of course the eye contact and all of that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, it's a balance, right? It's a balance like everything else in life. You need it all. You need to have the people that are capable of donating in that fashion, and you have all the people that are capable of doing this. And that's what it is about doing whatever you're capable of doing. And it's a beach is nothing but a collection of grains of sand, and it's not one big rock. It's not one big dump. They're just tiny grains of sand that make up this beautiful beach. And that's the way I see it right now. Not to get off on some philosophical.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's another quote. That's another quote that's going on your desk. It's going to be engineer fusing cannabis, using my engineering skills to fuse in the cannabis industry. And it's going to be a beach is not just one big rock. You're going to have both of these on your wall. So
it could have been at one time if it was broken up. So.
This is the Shining Light Video Podcast show where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. I'm here with Joe DeMaio, an engineer over at Pharmacan, where he has helped facilitate the process of being able to get medical marijuana into the hands of the people who need it. Joe, before we wrap up the show, something I always like to ask all of my guests is, Joe, when this quarantine is over, what's one place that you can't wait to bust down their doors and say, take care of me?
Well, the one local place that comes to mind is the Underground. I just want to go down to, a lot of people in Highland know the Underground, which is right downtown Highland. I live a stone's throw. I can pretty much zip line down there and go have a beer and hang out with my friends and bring my circle of friends down there. I like that place. It's chill, and it's actually in the building that my uncle used to own, which is Billy Slurp and Burp. So for any old school people that are watching right now, you know, that's what it used to be. And it has a lot of meaning to me, that building. So I hope when they get up and running, we go down there, have a burger and some beers and relax.
That's a great place. Yeah, that's a great place. What Jeremy and his wife Erin did to that place was just tremendous. They busted out the windows. The windows used to be blacked out. They busted out those windows, put in some real clean glass in there to make it look real great. You could see right through. They put out a nice area on the outside to be able to sit down. And Jeremy will drive hours upon hours to pick up some of the most unique beers from the most unique breweries, the craft breweries possible. And he just does a great job in hand picking. He hand selects each beer that's on tap from different breweries. And he's told us that basically people have driven, because he posted on social media, people have driven from Massachusetts, from Connecticut, just to come to his location to have a beer that they couldn't get because it's several hours away. So he gets some really, really unique beers. I'm glad you brought that place up. And you were going to mention another place?
No, it's a personal statement. I can't wait until I don't know. This may be pretty much everybody in the same boat, but you know, this is what comes to mind. We had to postpone family gatherings. I have two sides of my family. I have DeMaio and I have Phillips, my mother's maiden, and this is why I'm related to a large portion of Highland. And so we have family gatherings, and we have on the DeMaio side we do Christmas, we do a summer reunion, and we do Palm Sunday because historically, through the generations, we couldn't get together except for on Palm Sunday, which was the day that we got together and celebrated. And so those are three major holidays for DeMaio's. And then on the Phillips side, we used to have a Phillips reunion once a year, and we got away from it forever. And we started the first again last year. Was it last year? Yeah. And we need to sorry, I tried to silence my phone and it just keeps popping up. We need to start that again. And I can't wait to get back to that because, you know, I like Sunday dinners and stuff like that. And I can do that on a small scale of people that are in my circle right now, but I can't do it outwardly. And that really bothers me. And yeah, so we need to get back to hugs and handshakes. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Hugs and handshakes. That's I'm putting that at part of your quote wall. That's part of your quote wall. Hugs
that
and
one
handshakes.
I like.
I'm
that
making
one I
a
like.
quote wall for you.
I do. I have a poetry book I wrote, which you would never think from if you know me from a kid, you would never think I wrote a book of poetry. And as an engineer, you wouldn't think so. But I actually enjoyed it. Took a class on poetry, and so I don't know. Maybe you and I someday will go through it. You can pick whatever quotes you want out of there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, this has been the Shining Light Video Podcast show where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. My guest today has been Joe DeMaio. And Joe, before we wrap up the show, I know you've kind of given a little bit of your final thoughts, but I'd like to give it to you one last time. Any final thoughts, any final messages that you'd like to share with our audience today?
In speaking with you today, we always kept defaulting to my very simplistic approach on things at a baseline, and I think that's what's important. Just my mother used to always say, "Keep it simple, stupid," and take one day at a time. And I think that's what we all have to do right now.
Yeah, I like that. Take it one day at a time, keep it simple. And yeah, I do love your simplistic approach on things because it really makes it easy to understand of like just your positive thing of just being aware, just being more aware, and hugs and handshakes and all of that stuff that we spoke about is right. And going back to what you did at Pharmacan, it all relates to the same thing, is that you came up with a simple idea, a simple strategy to just start putting this little process into play, and all of a sudden, quite honestly, I'd have to say, you are part of the change in an industry. You have changed an industry tremendously. You're part of a large company and are able to help so many people. So
that's right.
Those little things, it's those little things. So for sure.
That's right.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show today. Well, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure, for sure. This has been the Shining Light Video Podcast Show, where I shine a light on my guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. My guest today has been Joe DeMaio of Pharmacan. He's an engineer who invented a machine to facilitate the process to loading these marijuana cartridges for a medical marijuana company. And of course, we have to highlight the fact that medical marijuana and adult use marijuana is spreading across our country and is moving into different places, and Pharmacan is a big player in that. And Joe, his little process is impacting great change in our world and in our society. So thanks so much, Joe, for coming on. I would also like to acknowledge stuff that's happening in our society today. The things that are happening in our society today, of course, affects all of us. And I want to share with everybody that my show is a platform to promote the amazing people in our communities, and it will continue to do so, to shine a light on the positive people and the actions they take to help each other. Therefore, I'd like to highlight several communities and their positive actions that they've taken today. From my knowledge, Middletown, New Paltz, Poughkeepsie, and even Ellenville have all had peaceful, nonviolent protests, and I'm sure there's many other cities and towns that have done so as well. Organizers met with county, city, and town officials in order to make all of this possible, and were able to make their peaceful protests impactful. This show will continue to shine a light on the positivity and the amazing people in our communities, no matter their race, gender, politics, religion, or any other perceived differences. I'd also like to update everybody on Forgotten Children of Haiti's Masks for the Front Line. Thanks to all of our generous sponsors, donors, and everybody who took part in our fundraiser, we were able to accomplish our goal of $5,000, and in fact, we've exceeded it. So a big thank you to all of you. That money is being sent to the frontline workers in Haiti to be able to buy N95 masks. I'd also like to highlight today's sponsor is the Mindful Living Coaching Program. In this program, Matt Alfonso will help you gain clarity, live present, and improve your self-love. This program is designed to help you shift your mindset and make lasting changes. Please message at MattAlfonso1 on Instagram and use the promo code ShiningLight to receive a significant discount. That's at MattAlfonso and the number 1. And this show has also been sponsored by HB Gold Rewards, the largest Facebook business networking group in the Hudson Valley, helping you shop local at a discount. Visit hbgoldrewards.com to buy your $10 discount card. Enter promo code FCH, and HB Gold Rewards will donate $8 for every card sold to our fundraisers. This show with Joe DeMaio will replay on my Facebook today at 6 o'clock. That's on my Facebook at Michael Esposito Inc. And then tune in tomorrow, where my guest, Stephen Orefice, will help you save money by preventing from your old windows, by preventing that money getting blown out of your window by replacing them with new windows.
Nice.
That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the Shining Light Video Podcast Show. Joe, once again, thanks again so much for coming on today. I'm so happy that Mike. You said yes to coming on the show today and sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and I'm so happy to have an inventor on the show today.
Thank you, Mike.
Awesome, awesome. All right, well, everybody, as always, stay happy and stay healthy and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Joe, have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.